On today's video, we're going to be looking at the top 10 worst apartment complexes in the Sarasota area. If you're thinking about moving to Sarasota, these apartment complexes are the ones you might consider avoiding. Today's video is 100% my personal opinion. Personal opinions can't be wrong because they're opinions. On top of that, we're not focusing so much on the management companies. We're focusing on the people that live in these apartments, the reputation they have, and also my experiences as an Uber driver in the Sarasota area. The places that I have figured out are pretty crappy to live based on my personal opinion. So if you're a management company in the Sarasota area and your apartment ends up on these videos today, you don't have to get mad at me because it's not about you. It's about my personal opinion about these places based on my personal experiences working in the Sarasota area. Sarasota is a great place to live with beautiful beaches and awesome vibes, but it's also kind of expensive. So perhaps if you're looking for affordability, maybe my video can help you find a place that is kind of rated low, and thus the prices have to be according to what you get. Usually, like you get what you pay for. So these places with the problems they have perhaps could be more affordable than other places. So maybe instead of looking at my video as something that's defaming your apartment community, perhaps look at it as an opportunity for your apartments to get some exposure for people looking to live in, well, incredibly ghetto places. Number 10 is any apartment that's facing Bee Ridge Road. If you've been on Bee Ridge Road, you've seen these apartments, and I know you've wondered the same thing I have. It must be a nightmare to live in these apartments. Sure, you're still in beautiful Sarasota, but you have to deal with the road noise, the homeless people, the vagrants, and well, anything passing along one of the most busy roads in Sarasota. While driving through here, you may notice beat up cars, people collecting scrap metal, old furniture sitting in parking spaces. It definitely doesn't have an attractive vibe. On Google Maps, we even discovered a car parked there that's covered in graffiti. But perhaps one of the worst things about these apartments, if you go on Google reviews, you'll see that people complain that they are completely rat infested. And it isn't just one person here or there. It's a multitude of people who've discovered that these apartments are full of rats. Number 9 is Garden Grove. Located off of Clark Road, close to Siesta Key. The beaches are nearby, but living in these apartments is nothing glamorous. Just like the ones off of Bee Ridge, these are also facing a major highway. They're run down, in bad shape, and currently the rating on Google Maps is as low as 3.4. Siesta Key is beautiful and Gulf Gate is busy. This is kind of a really busy part of Sarasota of great restaurants. It has a lot of bars and pretty good nightlife. The problem is that there are very few apartment complexes in this part of Sarasota, so all the bad seems to gravitate to whatever affordable apartments exist, and well, these are it. And to be fair, I'm not picking on this apartment complex. There's a few smaller ones nearby, and they all kind of have the same problem. They're the only affordable housing in this part of town. Number 8 is Venue at Live Oak. This is right off of Cattleman, again directly off a major highway. Now at first glance, these apartments may look pretty nice and beautiful, but in reality there's a few problems with, again, living off a major road. For one of the biggest complaints that residents have is finding parking. This person says they've lived here for many years and recently they haven't been able to find parking. As an Uber driver in this area, I can tell you that it really is true that this apartment complex has far too many cars and not enough parking. The comment about the parking is fairly recent, and in this area of Sarasota recently, the population density in apartments has been increasing because the demographics of the people renting them has as well. It seems like now there's just a lot more young people renting apartments. Many times they'll end up shacking up with a roommate situation. The issue is there are far too many people living in these apartments. A lot of them are young, a lot of them are undocumented. We've seen a lot of immigration raids, people getting arrested off of cattlemen. There seems to be a lot of Venezuelans, Peruvians, and people who are living undocumented in this area. While driving for Uber at night, I've noticed that many people park their cars backwards, and it's probably because they don't want law enforcement to see their license plate and maybe issue an immigration arrest, since a lot of people living here are undocumented. I also get passengers in here all the time, and I'm going to be honest with you, they don't seem like the type of people I would want to have living next door to me. There's also a homeless camp to the south of here, and this parking lot isn't gated. It's just wide open on a major highway, which means that many of the homeless people come in here to do car break-ins, so anything you leave unattended here will probably get stolen. As busy as this area is, this needs to be fenced off and gated, but it's wide open near homeless camps, so you can imagine car break-ins here must be through the roof. It's a constant problem for the people that live here. Just too many people and not enough security. Number 7 is 50 Paramount, and you're probably thinking, wait, are you crazy? Aren't these nice newer apartments? In theory, yes, they should be nice newer apartments, but I've worked in this area a lot, and it's a pretty undesirable complex. One of the persons living there says that they have people partying up to 1 in the morning, loud all the time. As an Uber driver, I can tell you for a fact that this apartment complex is a hotbed for people partying. Basically, the issue here is that it's kind of a bougie upscale apartment complex, and that attracts all the wrong people. It's off of one of the major highways leading to downtown, which means that people renting here are probably looking to enjoy the nightlife. And just like this resident said, the issue here is that people are partying at all times. I've been in these apartments at 2 or 3 in the morning, and there's a line of Uber drivers to pick up people who are partying, people trying to get in and out of the community around the gates, people jumping the fence to get in or out of the community. It's an absolute madhouse. Despite the fact it has a very upscale feel and look from the exterior, the nitty-gritty of this apartment complex is the fact that the residents here are simply partying all the time. And if you're looking for a peaceful place to live, this probably isn't it. I've also had several horrible experiences picking up Uber passengers here late at night. People who are intoxicated, inebriated, and are partying late at night with very bad behavior. So my experience that this is just a place where people go to party all night long, and well, despite the upscale feel, it's actually pretty freaking trashy. One of my worst Uber driving experiences was a lady I picked up in these apartments who wanted to score with me. When I turned her down, she became vengeful. She lied to Uber about my behavior and got my account terminated for 11 days. Thankfully, I had evidence, and when I was able to submit that, I got my account back and they closed theirs down. But it's just the type of place where people are drinking and doing all types of illicit activities. It isn't uncommon for you to pick up somebody here who is completely inebriated, and well, this is just a trashy apartment complex. Number 6 is Halston Lakeside. This is on Fruitville and Cattleman by the 75 exit. Any Uber driver knows that this place is a complete dump. The garbage is always overflowing. There's always people partying all night long. People in these apartments will literally throw a party in an apartment or in the parking lot, leaving behind all their garbage behind. If you've been here, you've seen the bottles on the ground and all the leftovers from the previous night's parties. This place is completely off the chains when it comes to partying. They also have a huge problem of undocumented people living here. And I'm not talking about hardworking families. I'm talking about people that are young and come to the US to party and go clubbing. This person, who's clearly an immigrant themselves but hates other immigrants, made a pretty racist remark about the Hispanics living in this community, saying that everybody knows they're not good people. It's interesting how an immigrant will hate other immigrants even though they're an immigrant themselves living in the same apartment complex, probably with the same legal status as them. But at the end of the day, this person complains that there's loud music all the time and that there's people partying in and out the whole night, and he ain't lying about that. Mold and roaches are also at the top of the complaints for people in this community. This dude's a little overly dramatic. He says he has panic attacks because the Latino people are partying all night. But at the end of the day, if you're so much better than these people, couldn't you afford to live somewhere else? Because you kind of get what you pay for, and if you ended up living next door to them, you may not be too different from them. If you were of a higher class like you think you are, maybe you'd be over here in Lakewood Ranch where we don't have those problems. But hey, maybe you can't afford to live here in Lakewood Ranch. So that's interesting that somebody will take up a problem with their neighbors for doing some trashy crap. Well, you're the one that ended up in a trashy apartment complex. Maybe if you didn't have a trashy budget, you could end up living next door to me here in Lakewood Ranch. The next person says that there's people partying the whole night, making loud noise, blasting music, and the cops are called frequently. It seems like in this community there's as many people snitching about the music and complaining about it as there are people doing it. But again, if you're so classy, why do you end up in these apartments? Hasiel says he likes living here. They accommodate the fact he doesn't know any English, and he likes the fact that there's garbage and beer cans on the floor every time he walks outside. To each their own, I guess. You know, there's communities where people play golf, there's communities where people do fishing, and this is a community for people who are illegal and like to blast music. So if you don't like those two things, maybe you're the problem. I recently picked up a young man here who accidentally ended up at a Diddy party. Yes, you heard me right, a Diddy party. There are about 17 people, mostly drag queens, who were stuffed into one apartment complex. And I guess this guy figured out it was a Diddy party far too late, called an Uber late at night to make an escape attempt because they were just getting ready to lube him up and he wasn't ready for it. At the end of the day, yes, there are people partying in this apartment complex every single weekend. And they'll throw parties with 20 or 30 people. If they can't fit them in the apartment, then they'll take the party to the pool. They'll take it to the parking lot. There are people partying here every freaking weekend. It's absolutely insane. That's what happens here. If you don't like it, move somewhere else. Apparently, this young man went to this Diddy party. He thought he wanted to be a supporter, but not a participant. It turns out that participation is a requirement of these Diddy parties. You can't be a supporter, you gotta be a participator, and he wasn't ready for the whole package. So if you want to live in an apartment complex with loud music and Diddy parties, it isn't my cup of tea. But hey, like I said, today's video, don't take it as a diss on your community. Perhaps tomorrow your leasing company will be full of people who want to live in a party 24/7 complex. And perhaps these people that are wanting to leave will be able to leave their apartments behind for somebody who could appreciate the lifestyle, or whatever the crap this place is called, which nobody can pronounce it because it's a really strange American name. And nobody here speaks English. So I think they need to call this La Vida Loca apartment complex because this Holston Lakeside thing, it's like nobody can pronounce it. Everybody just calls it the party place. I personally call it the Diddy Lake. Number 5 is any apartment complex off of North Vaniba. Basically between 12th and 17th is a huge apartment complex. Whichever one you pick out here, they're all going to have the garbage overflowing. Homeless people and raccoons plummeting through the garbage looking for goodies left behind by the residents. And I'm not making this up. I've literally seen homeless people digging through these garbage piles here because, again, you're kind of close to crappy neighborhoods, so you have homeless camps nearby. There's the Boniba Flats. This is just one of many apartment complexes back here. And again, management companies, don't get mad at me. It isn't you. It's just the general area as a whole sucks. Whether it's the Lexington or any of the other crappy apartment complexes back here, they all seem to be among the worst rated in the Sarasota area, with residents displaying a wide variety of complaints about the living conditions. But maybe the problem isn't the apartments themselves, it's the budget you're in. These are poor apartment complexes, and well, you get what you pay for. These apartments here off of North Vaniba are horrible areas. It's known for shooting, crime, and all types of wicked crap. So if your budget is low, consider this area and you won't be disappointed if you're expecting the absolute worst. There's many apartment complexes back here and a few of them are among the worst rated on Google Maps. So that should just give you an idea of what quality you get in this part of town. Number 4 is anything off of North Tamiami Trail. Tamiami Trail US 41 heads north out of downtown Sarasota, and along the way you'll find some of the most raggedy apartment complexes in the entire city. As you head north, you'll find places like this one right here that at some point used to be motels, but today are apartment complexes. Basically, the tourists got scared of this area, so the motels became apartments. There's a lot of those, empty parking lots, empty plazas. It really is a sketchy area between downtown and the Sarasota airport. This area here by Martin Luther King is definitely one you should avoid. And as you're heading north along US 41, all these apartment complexes, it's not about the management companies, it's not about Larry, the guy who runs the whole place. It's just a crappy part of town to live in. They keep building new apartment complexes here that are more expensive, but even these, why would you want to live in proximity to some of the worst parts of town to begin with? Sure, you're close to the airport and you're close to downtown, but you're also close to homeless camps, bars, drunk drivers, and everything bad that this metropolitan area has to offer. If you end up in this part of town, you best believe that these apartment complexes around here are going to be an absolute nightmare. And there's no other reason for me to get elaborate on particular apartment complexes, even the ones that are like right near downtown Sarasota, like anything north of Fruitville. Despite the fact these apartments are brand spanking new and luxurious, you literally have homeless camps like this one right here across the street. I had a lady who lives in these apartments up here on the right, and she told me that literally from her balcony at night, she can hear the homeless people screaming, blasting music, and fighting the whole night long. So if you move to this part of Sarasota, just please believe that you're going to end up with a lot of inner city issues. It may look pretty and brand new and fancy, but this is the homeless corridor and the worst part of the city. So despite the fact there's gentrification going on, if you move to anything in this part of North Sarasota, please believe between 301 US 41 north of Fruitville to the airport is definitely anything in here. You're going to have to deal with some serious inner city crap despite the fact you're in fancy Sarasota. If you've been in downtown Sarasota, perhaps you may have never ventured into this part of the city, but believe me, this is not where you want to live. And there really aren't any large apartment complexes back here. It's all kind of smaller stuff, so that's why I'm just generalizing this area as a whole. Number 3 is anything in the area of Hillview Street. This is in South Sarasota across from the hospital. It's an apartment complex area that's known for having a lot of undocumented people, Nicaraguans, Hondurans, Venezuelans. This is kind of like the pits when it comes to apartment complexes near downtown as well, but on the south side of the city. These apartments are run down in bad shape and they're known for crime, lots of domestic disputes. A lot of undocumented people live here. There's also quite a few Guatemalans. These are the people that work in the restaurants and bars downtown, and then they come here to sleep, party, get drunk, and beat their girlfriends. These apartments are always having to change their name to get rid of the bad reputation they create within a few years, so there's no reason to really give you the names because after all, they're going to change soon after people give them bad reviews. But driving through here at night, you'll see these scenes right here. On this particular night, there was a huge domestic dispute in these apartments. Mostly these were Nicaraguans that got into a fight. There's also some Dominicans in here. A huge dispute between people that were partying and got drunk and fought. And then one of the persons called an Uber because he didn't have a valid driver's license and he was afraid to drive away in front of the cops. So if you're looking for a rowdy apartment complex with lots of undocumented people partying and fighting, this is the place for you. Number 2 is Medisi. Now these apartments again don't look that bad. In fact, they're close to the University Mall area, so great shopping. Where do you start with the problems about living in these apartments? For one, I don't know how the building and development department allowed these people to create just high density parking versus apartment complexes. There's nothing but apartments and parking spots here. It's very tight. If you drive in here, you can barely pull out. It's also on one of the worst intersections for traffic in the whole area. Trying to get off of Medisi into University is practically impossible during broad daylight. When there's rush hour traffic, it can take 9 minutes just to get out of this apartment complex. I, again, don't understand who on earth allow these people to build just high-density apartment complexes with so little space for anything other than apartments and parking spots. I kid you not, they had to bribe somebody to allow something so horrific to be built. I can't show you the inside of these apartments because it's not on Google Street View, but you can tell just from the configuration that there's practically not enough space for somebody to even pull in. Parking spots here are very limited, and many people who live here use Uber. They're usually drunk and in very bad behavior, so it's just a really crappy apartment complex. You might think that being close to University Mall, these apartments would be nice. They don't look that bad. But when you just pay attention real carefully to the parking arrangement, how tight the population density is, how hard it is to get in and out of these apartments, you'll start to realize that living here is a huge freaking inconvenience. On top of that, there isn't much security, and once again, you have homeless camps nearby in the woods, so the people that live in the homeless camps at night are going to be venturing into the parking lot, seeing which car doors are open. A lot of the people that I get in these apartments don't have a valid driver's license. Their license is suspended for a DUI or something like that. So again, they might look like nice apartments, but really deep down, the people living here got a lot of problems. They're managed by TGM and they're rated at 3.4. I can't emphasize enough why a newer apartment complex should not be rated this horribly. I mean, they're new. They're near like malls and stuff like that. There's no reason for just a large apartment complex that isn't old, that's near great stuff, to be rated this low. It's really one of those places that should be better, but somehow isn't. Now, I said today's video wasn't about management companies, but the number one complaint for these apartments is issues with the lease, followed by roaches. People are getting their cars towed because there's nowhere to park. People say they call and complain, nothing happens. There's problems with dogs, there's problems with pest control. The dumpsters are always overflowing. Let's not forget the traffic that exists getting in and out of this community makes living here an absolute nightmare. And you can argue all you want about the fact it's a newer, nicer apartment complex near the University Mall, but that rating says it all. Alright, so before we finish today's video and tell you what the number one worst place to live in Sarasota is, I want to remind you guys that what we're making off YouTube on these videos isn't enough money. If you've considered donating to our channel, videos like this are aimed at helping people individually who are making good, important life decisions. So if you're one of those people that's watching today's video because you're moving to Sarasota, please consider helping us just as we've helped you. Your donation to the channel doesn't have to be large, but it makes an impact when we know that our subscribers appreciate what we're doing for you. This is what the Sarasota area looks like in general. And if you're thinking about moving here, I hope today's video has been useful in 10 apartment complexes or areas of apartments that you need to avoid. Number one is Greenway. These are right off of Fruitville. I'm sure you've driven past these apartments and wondered what is behind those prestigious 8-foot walls. And let me tell you, I don't know if it's to keep you from seeing the horrors that are happening back here or to keep these people locked behind that wall. But if you've driven past these apartments and wondered what the crap is back there, it's nothing good. Now, there's good people that live in these apartment complexes. I have regulars that live back here and I get them all the time on Uber. And I have had great experience picking up people on Uber in these apartments. So not everybody that lives here is a horrible person. There's great people that have to live in affordable areas because it's all they can afford. But if you're moving to the Sarasota area, this is definitely the one you probably want to avoid. And again, I can't emphasize enough how in all these apartment complexes are good people, and Greenway has been great for me on Uber because I've met some great people, but that doesn't mean that this apartment complex overall is a great place to live. I've been back here and there have been as many as 20 or 30 people just hanging out, making a rap music video or something. I remember one time I had this one Haitian guy and he forgot his stuff in the apartment complex. He made me drive back to get something he forgot, and I'm pretty sure I was being staked out for a robbery. He really had forgot something and it really was outside. But anyways, point being, this apartment complex is definitely the pits of the pits in Sarasota, and there's a reason why there's an 8-foot wall around the outside. Because of its convenient location, smack dab in the middle of Sarasota on Fruitville, you might think that it's worth living here, but trust me, it really isn't. Among the top complaints of residents here is a huge termite problem, but the number one complaint that they have is actually the management. If you end up living here, you need to have a high tolerance for criminal activity, people hanging out, partying, and vibing all day and night particularly. You better be okay with large gatherings of people partying and hanging out in the parking lot, because this is what happens here. If you don't like the smell of illegal substances and knowing that next door to you is somebody trapping, these apartments may not be the place for you. And while I'm not going to show you the photos that people are posting online, the conditions inside these apartments due to termites literally eating everything are horrendous. And these are definitely the 10 places that you should probably avoid if you're moving to the Sarasota area. Overall, Sarasota is a great place to live, great vibes, interesting area, good beaches. And living in Sarasota isn't like living in Miami where crime is around every corner, or where Jacksonville where murder is around every single corner. Sarasota is an overall pretty nice city, but please believe that there are apartment complexes here that are definitely disappointing. For one, even the worst places in the city seem to be starting out at about $1,850 for a 2-bedroom apartment, which means that if the lowest you're going to pay is $1,850, you might as well put a few $100s more towards that budget and get yourself somewhere decent, because the problems that you see in these apartment complexes, from people partying the whole night, overflowing garbage cans, to of course car break-ins and stuff like that, you may just want to budget a few $100s more and end up in a nicer apartment complex and not at the bottom of the pit. And the crazy thing about Sarasota is that even the bottom of the bottom seem to start out around $1,800 a month, because like I said, overall Sarasota is a great city, but please believe that there are some undesirable places to live here. If there's any apartment complex that you think I missed on today's list, please go in the comments and let me know. And remember that the ideology behind today's video is nothing more than my personal opinion, and that can't be wrong. Opinions can't be wrong. So this is what I think, based off of my experiences in Sarasota, of the areas that I would avoid if I were renting an apartment in Sarasota.